Hey everybody from Beantown to your town. This is the Beantown Beatdown along with Gabe Shamus.
Gabe Thomas here, also from Beantown.
Yep, and I'm Matthew Burris. And here to give you some news on combat sports. First, let's crack open these Mike's Harder iced tea lemonades.
Yeah, this is a first for us, isn't it, Matt?
Oh, yes, it is. Our first time ever drinking these. We're drinking these 24-ounce cans. So,
Way to chill it, knock it back. I
Yep.
always like it.
wow, I like these.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Oh, yeah, that is pretty good.
I'm definitely one for Arnold Palmer's. I don't know why I can't say that. The golfer, the drink
Yeah.
that's named after the golfer is.
Yeah, Arnold Palmer. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, so let's get into it, folks. Big weekend next weekend for combat sports, boxing, and mixed martial arts on December 12th and the 13th, Fridays and Saturday nights. First, let's cover the boxing. That's going to be on Showtime December 12th. It is going to be Aris Lande Lara. Sorry if I get the name wrong there. Not good speller. Cuban champion, Cuban WBA super welterweight champion, taking on Ishe Smith, former super middleweight champion himself of the Mayweather promotions, Mayweather camp. And that fight is going to be going down Friday, December 12th, 10:15 on Showtime, and that fight will be at the Alamo Dome in San Antonio, Texas. And there's been some boxing matches happening lately at the Alamo Dome. There were some last year, one this year. No, wait, it was last year for the Adrian Broner and Marcos Maidana fight. But lately, there have been a lot of boxing matches taking place in Texas for Golden Boy Promotions as well. They got one coming up in the new year in January, so be on the lookout for that. And then the next day on the 13th, which is Saturday night, and this one is actually going to be promoted by Golden Boy Promotions, taking place at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas, Nevada. MGM Grand, which his nickname is Mayweather Gets Money, because that's pretty. Lately, it's been the home of Floyd Mayweather. There, it's going to be Amir Khan versus Devin Alexander.
You said Saturday night on that one?
Yep, Saturday night, 9 o'clock on Showtime.
Awesome. You know what they say, Saturday night's all right for fighting.
Oh, yes, it is, folks. Yes, it is. Yes, in the immortal words of Elton John and Creed.
Both, yes.
For any of you Creed fans, what little of there is there here in America. So that's going to be a good night of fights. And then for the UFC, they're of course on Friday night on Fox Sports 1. There's the Ultimate Fighter season finale. I don't know who's fighting in the season finale because they got one more episode left on Wednesday, this upcoming Wednesday. So I'll give you more details on that in the next weekend. And as for the UFC, they have a fight on Saturday night, and that is going to be broadcasted live on Fox 25. So for those of you who don't have Fox 25, for those of you who don't have Fox Sports 1, you can watch this fight on Fox 25. And the main event on this fight, it is Junior Dos Santos, the former UFC heavyweight champion. He's back and making a return, going up against Stite Misakok. I think that's his name. Again, bad speller. A heavyweight favorite, ranked number 4 in the heavyweight division. On the undercard of that fight, we have Rafael Dos Anjos versus Nate Diaz. Nate Diaz, of course, the brother of Nick Diaz, another great fighter. Hasn't been world champion yet, but hopefully he will. He's ranked number 14 right now, and hopefully with a win over the ranked number 3 contender, hopefully he'll get a title shot. And of course, you got Alistair Overeem on the undercard right there, making his return against Stefan Struve. And then you have Gabriel Gonzaga against Matt Mitrone. Matroni. So big nights for the heavyweights. 3 heavyweight fights and 1 lightweight. Well, one lightweight fight there. So good double nights of boxing and mixed martial arts. Of course, I probably won't have enough money for pizza and alcohol because I gotta do my Christmas shopping this upcoming week. I gotta do my Christmas shopping, get that done and out of the way.
Right.
So maybe I'll just probably get some beers and maybe get have my mom get me some DiGiorno pizza. I'm willing to sell for that. And speaking of the UFC, tonight it is going down live on pay-per-view, live from Las Vegas. It is UFC 181, Hendricks versus Lawler 2 for the UFC welterweight title. It's a rematch. And of course on the undercard of this fight here, trying to look at it here on my computer, we have Ultimate Fighter coaches Anthony Pettis and Gilbert Melendez fighting for the UFC lightweight title. Of course, on the undercard of that, we have Travis Brown versus Brendan Schaub. 2 big heavyweights there. That should be a good fight. Another big heavyweight fight, Todd Duffy versus Anthony Hamilton. And, of course, in the lightweight division, Tony El Susi Ferguson versus Abel Killa Trujillo.
It looks like Trujillo.
Yeah, Trujillo. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thanks. So this should be a good night of fights. I don't know who these 2 guys are that are fighting, so I don't have a prediction on that. Todd Duffy versus Anthony Hamilton. Well, because I know Todd Duffy more than this guy, I'm going to go with Todd Duffy on this fight. Brown and Schaub, that's a 50-50 toss-up, or as the late great Gorilla Monsoon used to say back in WWE, WWF, it's a pick'em. Anthony Pettis versus Gilbert Melendez. This was somewhat hard to make because I like Gilbert Melendez. He was a great champion in Strikeforce, but at the same time, I do like Anthony Showtime Pettis. And I got Anthony Pettis winning this fight. I see this fight going all 5 rounds. And as far as Hendricks versus Lawler goes, I could possibly, even though I could probably see this going another 5 rounds like they did in the first fight, I wouldn't be surprised if this fight ended in a knockout. And for this fight, I'm going to go with Robbie Lawler because I'd like to see Robbie Lawler become UFC champion. He's an old-time MMA favorite. Fought in the UFC years before, fought in Elite XC, he was a champion there, fought in Strikeforce for a while. I would like to see him get the welterweight belt from Johnny Hendricks, maybe a Hendricks versus Lawler 3 in the works maybe after this fight. So definitely going to see this fight going down on pay-per-view. Go check it out if you got the money for it. And if you can't watch it, go to your local bar, Dave & Buster's or whatever, and you can go watch the fight there. Now, also got some news on the Floyd Mayweather versus Manny Pacquiao fight. Manny Pacquiao, of course, won his fight a couple weeks ago, and now there's been all sorts of speculations. There's been rumors. In fact, Jerry Jones from the Dallas Cowboys is trying to get in on the action. He wants the fight to take place in Dallas Stadium.
Yeah.
Oh, well, how could you not? It's a big, giant stadium. In fact, I remember watching America's Game football. They were talking about when the Cowboys won their first championship in the 70s. And they said that the reason they built the stadium that is now with the roof over, they said because so that God could watch his favorite team. Well, now, I go to church and stuff, but I'm not much for religion. Oh, yeah, I am for religion. I'm a Christian. But I don't know if God has a favorite football team. Well, I guess I'll find that out when I get there, hopefully. Please let me in, Lord. But, yeah, that would be a great giant stadium. Pacquiao's fought there as well. What I'm hearing is that Mayweather's camp wants it at MGM Grand because, of course, that's where Mayweather gets money. He's a big attraction there at MGM Grand. All of his fights have been there. They're also saying Macau in China because Pacquiao's fights... Well, yeah, Pacquiao's fights lately have been in Macau, China, the Republic of China. And it's a good gambling spot there, too, in Macau. It's the Las Vegas of China. In fact, they pulled in more money than Las Vegas a few years back.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, you know, Macau, China.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's that possibility as well. In fact, I actually heard like a couple days ago that there's rumor that the fight could take place in Dubai.
Really?
Yeah, taking place in Dubai or in the Middle East.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that'd be such a smart idea with the thing with ISIS still going around, and the last thing you want to hear about is two boxers captured over there.
Mm-hmm. Right.
One arena that hasn't been talked about, which really should be talked about, is the Barclays Center, because the Barclays Center has been pretty good with boxing events over this last year and a half. In fact, they got one coming on tonight on HBO. Gabe Rosado's fighting on that card over there at the Barclays Center. So I mean, and plus the Barclays Center for a year now, has been trying to get a Mayweather fight there, and with going into 2015, this being Floyd Mayweather's last year, it's going to be his final year in boxing before he gets out. I mean, how could you not want a Mayweather fight at the Barclays Center? But of course, nothing is really official because it hasn't been officially announced if the fight's going to take place or not. People are saying, well, it should be either Amir Khan or Manny Pacquiao. Amir Khan has got to get through his fight with Devin Alexander first, and then he can be considered to be in the mix. Because if Amir Khan loses, then Amir Khan's definitely out of the race. Even though I've heard people say like the Amir Khan fight is a fight nobody wants to see. Some people do say it's a fight people want to see, but I mean, I do want this fight with Pacquiao to happen. I think, well, if it were up to me, I would have Mayweather fight Pacquiao, and then should he beat Pacquiao, then Amir Khan should be next in line. So that's what's going on right now. Nothing is set in stone yet, and until announcement is announced, or I can get an official story on what's going to happen, we'll just leave it as that, just a rumor. People, we're only leaving it as a rumor. And now for our second segment. Second segment is Fighter of the Day, and as you all know, we've been talking about the Fab Four, and we're ending this on a good note with the Fab Four because we're talking about the king of the Fab Four, Sugar Ray Leonard. Yeah, Sugar Ray Leonard. I mean, what can you say about Sugar Ray Leonard? A great ambassador of boxing. Multiple division world champion. I mean, he was an amazing boxer. I mean, of course, the 1976 Olympic boxing team. As a matter of fact, that was actually the same year that the first Rocky movie came out. Yeah, the first one with Sylvester Stallone. Oh, yeah? Yeah. Awesome. And, it was still the Ali era, but then by the late 70s going into the 80s, it was definitely becoming, the Sugar Ray Leonard era. In fact, he was actually main eventing fights before he was a world champion. He was that much big of a draw. Actually fought Floyd Mayweather's father, Floyd Jr. Floyd Sr. Sorry.
Floyd Sr.
Yeah, Floyd Sr.
Okay.
Yeah, well, that's when Ray was on the up, and he beat Floyd Sr. And that was really Floyd Sr.'s only real recognition in boxing. He never made any real paydays, never became a real world champion because of drugs and crime and stuff. And then, of course, he beat Dickie Eklund, who is the brother of Boston's own Mickey Ward. Of course, anybody who's ever seen The Fighter would know that. Or anyone who's a boxing fan growing up here in Boston would know that as well. And so after that, Sugar Ray, of course, beat Wilfred Benitez for the welterweight title, got his first championship. Then he had the fight with Roberto Duran, the brawl in Montreal. He lost that fight. And, of course, regained the title, the No Mas fight, the second fight with Duran. He beat Tommy Hearns, and then afterwards he retired because of a detached retina. He did retire. He came back in '84. He wanted to come back and against Kevin Howard. Yeah, Kevin Howard or one of the boxers. I forget the name. But he came back. He had a comeback fight. He got knocked down, and then he came back and won it. and then he went back into retirement because he says it was because he was embarrassed. He had never been knocked down as a pro. Well, actually, he had been knocked down as a pro, but it was like an embarrassment knockdown. And then, 3 years passed. By this time he was doing commentary for like ABC, CBS, and he was also doing commentary for HBO boxing. And then he wanted to come back and fight Marvin Hagler. And before Ray's retirement, that was the fight everybody wanted to see. Everybody wanted to see Leonard and Hagler. And Leonard, of course, comes back out of retirement after about 2.5 years. Actually 3.5 years, whatever.
Yeah.
And Ray Leonard, he came back, at a high level and beat Marvin Hagler. I mean, he used his speed, his quickness. He was really outboxing Marvin Hagler. He was giving Hagler a boxing lesson. And people will debate like, well, Hagler won. It was a pretty close fight going into the middle in the late rounds, but Ray definitely won that fight. I mean, he definitely did win that fight. And then of course he retires again, and then of course he comes back in late 1988, like a year after he beat Hagler. He comes back. He faces Donnie Lalonde for the super middleweight and light heavyweight WBC titles. And in fact, he actually co-promoted that event with Vince McMahon, Titan Sports.
Oh.
Oh, yes. And Ray Leonard beat Donnie Lalonde. For those of you who are not too familiar with Donnie Lalonde was a boxer out of Canada, a super middleweight and light heavyweight boxer. He never really fulfilled his full potential. In fact, his manager was actually Dick Wolf, who managed Ray Boom Boom Mancini. And also, he trained for a while with Teddy Atlas. Then him and Teddy had a falling out, which resulted in Teddy wanted to shoot Donnie.
Really?
Yeah, he wanted to shoot Donnie, and then his mom answered the door, and then he forgot about it. Well, Teddy had that Italian temper. But anyways, Ray Leonard beats him, and then he has the rematch with Thomas Hearns. That fight ends in a draw, and then he has the fight with Roberto Duran, the third fight. Not the fight that everybody wanted. Didn't live up to the hype, although he did win. And then in 1991, he comes back. He fights Terry Norris, young Terry Norris. And Terry Norris, of course, beats him, and people think that is the end of Sugar Ray Leonard, And then he comes back to fight years later, around 1997. I actually remember this day. He came back to fight Hector Macho Camacho. And Camacho, of course, beats him, and that was a clear sign that Ray Leonard did not belong back in the boxing ring. Yeah.
So I don't know about this the whole lifespans of fighters and how it works in the fight world and whatnot, but that seems like a lot of comebacks. Am I wrong on that?
Well, yeah, I mean, Ray, he came back and a few times, and and some people always gave him the benefit of a doubt, and
right,
because it was like, well, especially after the Hagler fight, and he came back to fight Donnie Lalonde, even though it was at a higher weight division. He said like. People are like, well, he came back and beat Hagler, he could probably beat Lalonde.
Right.
And I guess by that time, I think it was like clear. People thought like, well, even though Ray Leonard won, because like Ray got knocked down in that fight with Lalonde. In fact, Ray, in interviews, he says that he had a premonition that night he was going to get knocked down. It was a matter of when's it going to happen, And once it happened, it was like, okay, I got through it, and now I can come back and fight.
Right.
And I think it was the second fight with Tommy Hearns, and the fight with Terry Norris. That was clearly like the deterioration of Sugar Ray Leonard. And some people still to this day, they go online. There's always a debate of could Sugar Ray Leonard have beat Floyd Mayweather Jr. in his prime. People say like, oh, Ray Leonard should come back. He should come back and fight Floyd Mayweather. It's like, nah. Maybe if they were both in their primes, Leonard would have beaten Mayweather, but at this point, no. In fact, him and Tommy Hearns are still friends, and they were friends after the first fight, and they've been friends ever since. Ray Ray was on ESPN Classics Ringside where they talked about his fights and his career, and he says like Tommy always calls him up for a third fight because they never had a third fight, and he says, hey, listen, man, we should do it one more time. Let's have a third fight. And Ray's like, no, Tommy, we should let it go, man. Come on, listen, I'm old. I'm a grandfather now, and I can't fight. And Tommy, he goes, okay, well, what if we just stick to body punches? Yeah, right. Body punches, yeah. And also, I remember when they were showing the clips of his losses to Terry Norris and Hector Macho Camacho. Bert Sugar, who was still alive at that time, the boxing expert, he said to Ray, he said, no wonder Tommy Hearns keeps calling you up. He thinks you're coming back.
Right, totally.
Oh yeah, most definitely. And and of course I read Ray Leonard's book that came out a year ago, and there was a lot of stuff in that book that I really didn't. Somewhat I did know, and some I really did not know much about. For example, he had a long, at the height of his fame, he really had a battle with cocaine and alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in fact, even after he quit boxing, he was still drinking and stuff like that, and I think he's been sober now for like 6 years.
Wow.
Yeah, going on 6 years, and he cheated on his first wife, Juanita, and he since then has been married. He's been married again. He has 2 daughters, and also what many people didn't know this about Ray Leonard is that Ray, when he was training for the Olympics, he was when he was boxing for the Olympics, he had an Olympic coach, and he said that his coach touched him inappropriately.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, not a lot of people knew about that. He's been out and about it since then. He uses it in his motivational speeches, and he does a lot of motivational speaking too. If you ever get a chance, I don't know how closely you follow the motivational speaking circuit or anything. But
not really.
Okay, but if you ever hear that Sugar Ray Leonard is in town, he's doing a motivational speak, I highly recommend you go see it.
Yeah,
him
I
and Bruce.
Like to.
Yeah, him and Bruce Jenner.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that was really a touching story, and stuff like that. And plus, he kept most of it a secret, the drugs and alcohol thing, a secret for a while until after his divorce. And and the surprising thing is when he finally revealed it, nobody turned their back on Ray Leonard. It was because most people would be like, oh, he's a drug addict.
Right.
But it was more because he was the least likely person to ever have a drug problem. And it was more embracing him, trying to forgive him, and stuff like that. They were more forgiving, which is rarely happens.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah, it rarely happens.
That is fascinating.
And also, one more thing about Sugar Ray Leonard is that Sugar Ray Leonard is actually friends with Johnny Gill.
Yeah. Yeah,
Johnny Gill from New Edition.
Oh,
okay. Ray and Johnny Gill are both from Baltimore, Maryland. Mm-hmm. And Johnny actually says Johnny used to work out in the boxing gym with Ray and stuff, and Sugar Ray, he said that he knew that Johnny had a good voice, and of course Johnny Gill went on to Motown. He was a singing star, and then later got with New Edition and stuff. In fact, Charlie Murphy, Eddie Murphy's brother, was telling a story about how he told a funny story about how Johnny Gill thinks that he could beat Oscar De La Hoya in a boxing match.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Johnny Gill may be good to be good for a sparring partner or whatever. He may be good at sparring and for a workout and all. But as far as fighting Oscar De La Hoya, especially when De La Hoya at that time was at his peak, fuck no. Stick to your day job, Johnny. Stick to your day job.
Why is it always Charlie Murphy that has the best undercover Hollywood and stories?
Well, that's what you get when you're Eddie Murphy's brother and you're not and you're not that very known, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
And now
I keep thinking of the what was it?
the Rick James.
Rick James, yeah, the whole
Charlie
Rick,
Murphy!
yeah, Charlie Murphy, and the Rick James skit.
That was cold-blooded.
Yeah, exactly. I'm Rick James, a bitch.
Yeah. Yeah, and Sugar Ray Leonard, you know, one of the best. You know, the best thing that happened to boxing in the 80s. You know, he definitely ruled that 80s. People, and I know people are gonna say, well, what about Tyson or Larry Holmes? And well, Larry Holmes was a underappreciated champion. He wasn't really appreciated much until years later now. And Mike Tyson came along in the mid to late 80s, so he kind of ruled that for a while. Even when Tyson was on stop, it was still the Sugar Ray Leonard show. So Sugar Ray Leonard definitely ruled the 80s. One of my favorite boxers as well, and you know, still around to this day, and you know, one of the best of the Fab Four rivalry. So that's that.
The Fab Four.
Yep. And now here's our blast from the past, where we talk about fights from the past. And on this fight, this is a fight I saw this past week on ESPN On Demand. If you have On Demand, go to ESPN On Demand and Classic Boxing, and you'll get this fight between Michael Second to None and John Scully. Now, of course, boxing fans, you know, John Scully does expertise on ESPN's Friday Night Fights. But back then, you know, he was a boxer, and you know, he was a contender. He was a good boxer coming out of Connecticut, not too far from Boston here. And you know, at that time when he fought Michael Nunn, he was you know, he was a contender. He was you know, he never became like a real world champion or anything, but he was a good contender, and he was a good sparring partner too. He sparred with Roy Jones Jr. and James Toney. Yeah, if you can believe that. And Michael Second to None. Michael Nunn was a former middleweight and super middleweight champion. He was a member of the '84 Olympic. Well, he wasn't. Yeah, he wasn't a member of the '84 Olympic team. Sorry, he lost in the trials to Virgil Hill. John Scully, of course, was a member of the '88 Olympic team and won a bronze medal. But by that time, you know, Michael Nunn, you know, he had some losses, and he developed a good winning streak before this fight, and was trying to get back into the title contention. And this fight actually took place on ESPN. And I remember watching this fight, and it was a great fight, man. There was this, like, toe-to-toe. I mean, Michael Nunn had speed and all that, but wasn't really using much defense, wasn't, like, much moving and stuff like that. He laid on the ropes for a while, but those guys were going back and forth. You know, it was like boom, 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 brah, brah, brah. And yeah, John Scully was a bit of a slugger, man. You know, he was a bit of a slugger, and that fight was just going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, all the way up into the 12th round. And Michael Nunn, of course, got the decision. He got a unanimous decision. Which, I mean, I don't disagree that Michael Nunn won the fight. I mean, Michael Nunn did win this fight, but this fight was a lot closer. I mean, one judge had it 118-108. I mean, sorry, 118-110. One judge had it 120-108, and another judge had it 118-109. I mean, it's like, come on, you didn't give John Scully any of those rounds? Really? Are you fucking kidding me? I mean, that fight was a lot closer. That fight was a lot closer. It was a bullshit call. Great fight, but it was a bullshit call. That fight took place on December 8th, 1995. It was at Foxwoods Resorts in Connecticut. And, of course, since then, Connecticut has been a great scene for boxing, not only at Foxwoods, but also at Mohegan Sun. So if you're ever in Connecticut and there's a fight in town, whether it's boxing or MMA or kickboxing, go to them, man. You know, that's a good place for fights. In fact, the first Mickey Ward and Arturo Gatti fight took place at Mohegan Sun.
Mohegan Sun, that's fascinating too, because like, you know, a lot of people that around here, you know, when you want to go down for the big casino scene, where do you go? You still go down to Mohegan Sun.
Yeah, and I really hope they make a casino here in Boston, because you can't always have the UFC at at the Garden, because because that way there could be something else that can play at the Garden, and the UFC could come here, and plus the UFC draws big crowds in casinos, so that could be a good for them, for the UFC, drawing a lot of money. But it was a good fight. Scully afterwards, he kept on fighting, became a sparring partner, eventually trained amateurs, and now he works all over at ESPN for Friday Night Fights. Michael Nunn, unfortunately, he had one more title shot for the WBC light heavyweight title. He lost on a split decision. And then he went on a 6 fight winning streak until 2002. He got indicted for drug trafficking. He had drug trafficking cocaine. Actually had a bit of a drug problem himself. And he was sentenced to 20 years in prison in 2004.
Wow.
Yeah, 24 years. 24 years on drug trafficking.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, it is. It's like, especially for a fighter like him, he was considered a great boxer, and he had a great fight with James Toney and, Iron Barkley and all those other fighters, and now he gets, charged with trafficking, and now he's sentenced to 24 years. And,
wow.
24 years, I mean...
It's a long time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for the punishment fitting the crime here, but this doesn't seem like the kind of... I mean, I could probably see 15, maybe 10 years, but 24? Damn!
Right. And what is it that now, you said Sugar Ray, and now this guy Michael Nunn, like, what is it with... that there's, that they also get involved in cocaine. You don't hear of marijuana as much. You don't hear of psychedelics.
Well, Ray said that he did smoke pot once, but he said that it slowed him down. So
yeah, I guess with fighters, you want to be more up. You want to be on your feet.
Yeah, and it's no different from any other athlete that gets caught up in drugs. The high, you get the fame, you get the money.
Yeah.
And you're just on, you're flying on cloud 9. You feel like you can do whatever you want, and and of course by the time that he got into drug trafficking, Michael Nunn was basically becoming yesterday's news. He was basically just fighting journeyman fighters, nothing to really get him, especially after that that last title shot. He was basically just fighting journeyman. So he wasn't in no position to fight like somebody like a Bernard Hopkins or a Roy Jones Jr. Of course, looking back on it, I think a Roy Jones Jr. fight and Michael Nunn would have been a great fight. Would have been interesting to see who would win that fight.
Yeah.
And that's basically what happened.
It does get me thinking. Like, this might be a good idea for a discussion later on, like in one of our other shows. Like what's the difference to you when you find out like the fighters are involved with cocaine versus people get denounced when you find out they've taken performance enhancing drugs.
Oh yeah, that's definitely a good conversation to have.
Yeah.
One time we'll definitely have that sometime in the near future.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Let's do that. Let's have that conversation.
Oh yeah, definitely on the ball, Gabe. Definitely on the ball.
For sure.
So, anyways, it's a good fight to look up. Look it up on if you have Comcast on demand. Go to the sports section, sports and fitness, ESPN, classic boxing. If you don't have it, look it up on YouTube.
Right.
And now this is our rant of the day, and the rant of the day, of course, we're talking about sexuality in combat sports, and of course, Gabe, you want to tell your story about your sexuality? Or?
Yes, exactly. So this is something that I recommended. I've made clear from the beginning I'm pretty much an outsider in the fight world. This has been Matt's project, and it's been awesome to learn so much about all this. But the thing that one of my topics was definitely about sexuality and about fighting. And so, I know that there's a lot of fans out there probably thinking that, that they're not involved or they shouldn't be involved. And I think that's actually it's overlooking a few different things here. So I understand, like, I'm going to make a lot of analogies to regular, like, team sports, because I feel like the same type of dynamics goes on. I think that there's that you do want to focus on the players as players. Like, if we're talking team sports, you want to look at the baseballer guys and figure out their strategy, their things like that, and you don't see them as people with appeal. Whereas the cheerleaders, I guess, are there to be appealing. So that's kind of my thing. Is that, first off, you do want to say, I'm sure you do want to have a separation of sports and sexuality, but at the same time you do have cheerleaders there, and that's great. That's great for you guys. I think I honestly think anything that brings more of the actual honest truth of what's going on is better. So the fact that you do bring cheerleaders in, and you have your sexual ideas and your sports ideas in the same place is actually more healthy and more what it's about. So anyway, I am. The other thing I'm going to talk about is that I'm also a gay man. Bring this up out in the open. I'm not saying this to inject myself into this or inject sexuality that you're not comfortable with into this. This is the nature of the situation. You can be gay and enjoy sports. My boyfriend is very big football fan, and I'm not, but that's okay. So I think it's the same type of thing. I know, in fact, that there are gay fight fans. In fact, you talked about our friend Michael and his boyfriend.
Yep.
So yeah, so to me, sexual orientation has nothing to do with that. But I feel like that there is always some sort of sexual energy in these things, and so for me, yes, there is sexual energy when I look at these men fighting each other, and I personally am attracted to that. One of the first questions I asked in our first episode was about the women fighters. Remember that, Mike?
Yeah.
And so, that one of the things I was wondering at the time was, how you guys feel about women fighters as well, and not just that it's a different arena that you're used to, but also do you start having sexual feelings for them or not? So I think you're probably used to the guy fighters and you see them as sportsmen, and therefore you don't have a sexual idea about them. Whereas now that there are women fighters, I think it's okay to say that you might have a sexual feeling towards them, and does that degrade from them as athletes? That's a whole different question, honestly. But
Oh no, I can answer that.
okay, tell me.
Well,
I would love to know.
No, I mean I can answer that because I saw when I was watching Elite XC, I saw Gina Carano come on the scene.
Yeah.
And I've seen since then. I've seen Ronda Rousey. I've seen Cyborg. Although a lot of people, I think I'm probably the only person on earth that thinks Christine Cyborg is attractive.
Okay.
And Misha Tate and all these other ladies. Let me tell you something. The whole thing is about having the total package.
Right.
Yes, I like them as fighters, but I can also fantasize about them.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, trust me. Not that I didn't fantasize about Misha Tate and Ronda Rousey already.
Right.
But the one season on The Ultimate Fighter when they had both women and men competing in the same house, and Tate and Rousey were on there. They were the coaches, and they were going to fight that year. I remember, I started having a lot of sexual fantasies about them.
I bet.
Oh yes.
Okay.
And,
so yeah.
And
good.
I do respect them as fighters, and I like them as fighters, and I'm just a big fan of them. I mean, and especially with Ronda Rousey, she has the it factor. And that's what you look for as a fighter, someone with a total package, someone who's beautiful,
right,
and that can fight. there are some female fighters who are beautiful but can't fight, and you have ones who can fight, but they're, they look like they fell out of an ugly tree and hit every branch on the way down.
Boom, 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 boom. All right, that's an image.
Yeah.
So it's almost like you, the fact that you can fantasize about them, it's almost like even more respect in a way, would you say, towards them as fighters?
Yeah, of course. I've had a lot of sexual dreams, and in fact, by the way, Mom, if you're listening to this, please cover your ears. I had one sexual.
Let's make that clear.
Yes, I've had one sexual fantasy. I've had sexual fantasies where me and Ronda Rousey.
Yeah.
We had Katy Perry as a sex slave.
Oh.
I mean, we've tied her up. We put a vibrator up her pussy. We double teamed her. We've done everything to her.
Oh my.
Oh yeah. Hey, I'm a freak. I'll admit it. I'm a freak, and I'm not ashamed of it.
A freak between the sheets, yeah.
Oh yes. And the thing is, but I still like Ronda Rousey as a fighter. I mean, she's beautiful. She's a damn good fighter. And it's like, I like girls who have the total package.
Right.
And as far as the male version of it, it's kind of the same thing with Michael Sam, who's on the practice squad for the Cowboys. By the way, the Cowboys are doing good this year. Yeah, they are. And, I could care less of it, or if any athlete in general is gay. Oh, he's a gay man, and it's like, how are you going to market a gay person? Listen, it kind of reminds me of that conversation, an interview Lenny Kravitz had when he first got into the music business and he got his record deal. He said, like, he was worried about, like, how they're gonna market him, and then one of the executives said, we're not gonna market you, we're just gonna put you out there. Well, years later, a rock god. So, and that's the whole thing. Sometimes it's best not to market gay athletes. It's just put them out there.
Yeah, exactly. And it's fun. I'm glad that you brought him up. I was actually going to bring up Michael Sam and these other guys in the NFL and in the NBA that are coming out. It's I think I'm glad for the conversation that's happening around that. Some of it in the mainstream news is kind of juvenile, but like that, like how are we going to market it, or how is his teammates going to be able to support him, etc. I think that's based on outdated thinking, honestly.
Yeah, and and the thing is, I could care less if they're fucking the sheep. I mean, listen, I don't care if they're fucking the sheep, just as long as they're getting results. And it's like I said one time on the Maddie and the Dog show with Michael. I said about Michael Sam is that yes, it's good that he's the first gay athlete, but he has to get results. He has to be a great player. He has to start getting the team to the playoffs. He's got to start winning championships. Otherwise, this experiment, it will look like a failure. Now, he is on the practice squad on the Cowboys. He hasn't really played. I mean, this is his first year, so I will give Michael Sam some time. But if he's not on the field playing, and if by that time the Cowboys are not in the Super Bowl or not in the playoffs, the experiment will be looked at as a failure. I mean, it's not a knock on his sexuality. It's a matter of, the NFL is a results-driven league. Not that any other sports organization or league is not results-driven, but it's definitely results-driven, especially when you're playing for America's favorite team, which is the Dallas Cowboys. When you're playing for America's favorite team, it is all about results. And if you don't believe me, ask Tony Romo. And it's all about the results. And the same thing with gay fighters. There's one gay boxer who
is there now.
Yeah, he's Hispanic. I forget his damn name. But he had a little buzz going. I don't know what he's doing now.
See, yeah, that's interesting. I was gonna say maybe I have to only speak in hypotheticals because I don't know if gay fighters have come out yet, but I guess at least one has.
Well, Liz Carmouche, who fights in the UFC, she also did some time in Iraq. Yeah, she's openly a lesbian.
Okay.
Yeah, there are lesbian fighters out there. There hasn't been any male gay MMA fighters to come out of the closet yet.
Right.
And
so yeah, I think I guess that's something else I'd say is that it might drive to some of your guys' uncomfortability, or at least not. You might not be as used to this, but what I'm trying to say is that you can have sexuality, like we've established. You can have sexuality and fantasize about someone and respect them as a fighter or as an athlete. So it's the same thing about anyone in their personal life. They can have same-sex fantasies in their personal life, and it doesn't mean that it's going to translate into the ring. So I think that's one of the first stereotypes or uncomfortabilities that should be worked out and dispelled. And so yeah, I mean it might be the sexuality of these men that bring me to actually watch fighting, which I normally, and be honest, do not. But that's good. It's the same thing with the cheerleaders that get more guys to watch sports than wouldn't always, etc. I think.
Well, that's a good thing, but that's good as long as the eyes are glued to the TV and the asses are and the asses are in the seats.
Yeah, exactly.
Same thing with our friend Michael. Michael was he's not really that big on UFC fighting. I mean, he does watch some of the fights, but he also watches it because he likes to watch the weigh-ins when they take their shirts off and they're in their underwears and tight whities. And that's fine, just as long as it's still attracting fans.
Right.
You're still attracting fans.
Yeah. That's the other thing I was going to say is that I feel like a lot of you that might be uncomfortable with men thinking this way about men, you have grown to accept that women think this way about the male athletes. Like women in football, it's become kind of a trope. They want to watch the guys' butts or whatever.
Yeah.
So if you can accept that from women, and if it does get more women in the seats, then then eventually I think work that out, or whatever uncomfortability out, and figure out that men, certain men will have the same attractions.
Yeah. And two things I want to point out, I want to touch on here, is like, the other thing is, there's always the running joke because of mixed martial arts and the grappling and the wrestling and jiu-jitsu. There's always these jokes of like, oh, they look so gay, they're rolling around like homosexuals.
Right.
And then there's the gay jokes of maybe one of them will fuck each other in the ass while they're trying to do it, and blah, blah. I mean, it's like, as much as I wouldn't mind a gay fighter, I don't mind a gay fighter, but it's also, there's still going to be that stigma of like, it really is homosexuality. They all really are rolling around, and and then you hear all the gay jokes and stuff like that, and you hear all the gay jokes and stuff, and there's actually been online YouTube videos, making fun of that, and I don't mind a good joke, but for all the haters out there, who describe it as gay porn or whatever, it's like, fuck you. And fuck you.
Fuck you on both counts, honestly, because it's all it's disrespecting the fight, which he doesn't like, and it's also disrespecting us and our sex lives, our gay men and our sex lives. So
yeah, I mean,
fuck
I don't
you
watch
on that as well.
Well, I mean, I don't watch. I mean, I don't mind lesbians, but two men. Hey, listen, I'm all for gays. Hey, you're one of my best friends, and so is Michael.
Yep.
I mean, I don't watch male gay porn, or anything like that.
Right.
No, not my thing, but
we wouldn't expect you to.
Yeah, but it's there.
Yep.
And also the other thing is, also getting back to the women,
right,
is that women, as much as big, as they've gone in sports. Because sports is still pretty much it's still pretty much a male's club. It's still pretty much a boys' club, and it's even still a struggle even to play football. I mean,
right.
I mean, there's a women's football league, but but it still needs to be marketed right or to be embraced by the mainstream. And women still have this hard time of doing, male sports. I mean, there's women now.
I think what happened with the WNBA in the early 2000s is like, that sort of proves we're still not comfortable enough, and still not good enough at this. Where the people are like, oh, the WNBA, it's gone the way down, blah blah blah. Like, and that's also I think a symptom of this problem.
Yes. And also the thing is, women, little girls, they're being pigeonholed when it comes to sports, and
right.
I hear mothers and like I was trying to get my my niece Crystal into mixed martial arts because she did Taekwondo for a while. I said I said to my brother, I said, why don't you try to get her into mixed martial arts? Advance her Taekwondo training. And my mom and my sister-in-law were like, no, oh, that's too brutal, and they always, oh, that's my baby, and stuff like that. But it's like, why are you pigeonholing her?
Exactly.
And I mean, if I had a daughter, like if I had a daughter who said that she wanted to go play football, she'd go, Dad, I want to play high school football. Go do it.
Right.
Well, the thing is, the principal doesn't really want me to do it, and also the coach doesn't really want me to do it. I just say, no, you're gonna do it. Don't worry about those guys. I'm gonna go John Rambo on their asses. Verbally.
Verbally, yes.
And but you're gonna be on that team. You just let me take care of those sons of bitches.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, and that's good, and that's really important. And then also you. When you say that's like, that's my baby, blah, blah, it's brutal. You don't say that. I noticed that people probably wouldn't say the same thing when it comes to self-defense classes. And I went to a self-defense class where they talked about how important it was to bring women in, and they talked about that there was a 9-year-old girl that really excelled at it and felt really liberated, and like she was able to protect herself. And I think that's also really awesome. And that could come from a self-defense class or from an actual fighting class.
Yeah, in fact, when girls learn mixed martial arts, early, and when they, you won't have to worry about the fathers won't have to worry about them dating either,
right?
Because it's like, they can just they can go on a date, and the boy tries something, he can just beat the crap out of him.
Exactly.
It's like, oh baby, come on, let's just have a little. I said, she'll put him in a chokehold.
Yeah.
I said no. I said no. Don't touch my ass.
Exactly. Shove him into the window as she gets out of the car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's what's that's the thing. Sexuality means nothing. I mean, all I care about is results. I don't care. I don't care if you're fucking a man, if you're fucking a woman, if you're fucking the sheep. I don't really give a fuck. It's just as long as you're winning championships, and
not to say that that accepting homosexuality leads to accepting bestiality.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of
not
bestiality.
literally. Not literally.
Yeah, I'm not endorsing bestiality here. I'm just trying to make a point.
Yeah.
And also getting back to Katy Perry. Katy, it is official. Katy Perry will be performing at the Super Bowl in Phoenix.
Awesome.
And all I gotta say is, I really do hope the New England Patriots do make it to the Super Bowl, because if the Patriots are in the Super Bowl, I have no interest. Because last year when the Patriots didn't make it, I mean, everyone was talking about the Broncos and the Seahawks.
Mm-hmm.
I just watched the Super Bowl for Bruno Mars, and I saw Bruno Mars. I saw Red Hot Chili Peppers perform. That was great. I don't know how Red Hot Chili Peppers could perform in that cold weather though, in their underwear. And, I saw it. I went, all right, good. And then afterwards, it was like, done. Same thing. That same thing's going to be this year if the Pats aren't in the Super Bowl. It's going to be like, okay, here comes Katy Perry. Yep, knocked it out as usual, and then done.
Right.
Exactly. So we're gonna end this show right here.
Yeah.
Check us out on YouTube. Beantown Beatdown here. Check us out on YouTube.
More awesome, controversial conversations to come.
Oh yes, subscribe. Subscribe to the channel. Leave comments, and don't worry. Pretty soon, by 2015, we'll be on video. So hopefully you can see our handsome faces.
Awesome.
So from Beantown to your town, this is Matthew Barris along with Gabe Shamus saying.
Gabe Shamus, yep.
Gabe Shamus saying, Vayos con Dios.